Hey everybody, welcome back to Pro AV. Today, I am your host, Ben Thomas. One of the absolute honors that I get as a member of the industry is to meet people who have found their way through one avenue or another into our industry. And I love to ask them questions. I love to talk to them, learn about their perspective, not only about ways that they found their way into the industry, but also their perspective on some of the ways that maybe we could do some things different. And then chatting just about things like trade shows and sales cycles and all sorts of different applications within our industry, because a lot of that new blood that exists not only in the Pro AV community, but in really the workforce as a whole, is influencing buying patterns and marketing techniques and trends. So I always love to be able to ask a lot of those questions, and I get the honor to do that today on Pro AV Today as well. Without further ado, wanted to introduce my next guest, who's one of the newest members to the industry, and that is Raegan Thompson, currently with American Music and Sound. Raegan, it's so wonderful to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Raegan, you and I had a chance to meet at a show here pretty recently, and we got to talk a little bit, and I loved hearing kind of your backstory and a little bit more of your why and understanding kind of the motivations and what drew you to specific aspects, whether it's specifically the Pro AV industry or the music industry or wherever. But you kind of come from that marketing world, and I love to hear those stories. But before we get into all of that, I want to learn a little bit more about you, right? Tell me about yourself, kind of who you are and how you found your way into this wonderful industry of ours.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm just a simple gal. I'm from a small town, not too far from LA, like an hour out. So I moved down to the big city because of college, and I wasn't quite sure where my journey in life was going to take me, but I ended up meeting someone who was a part of a band, and we became really close friends. So I started helping them out with marketing. And then in my last semester of college, I was really into my minor in public relations, and I started to think like, oh, wow, I really like using my creative writing abilities, but more in a journalistic sense, and using that to kind of market certain brands and like people. So I used the skills for the band. And then I got a marketing internship at my college. So that kind of sparked my marketing interest and also my music industry interest.
No, that's great. And I even love to hear that you kind of found some opportunities through college. And I want to spotlight a few folks real quick. I know that you have done some work with the folks over at WAVIT, and I know that they've kind of given you some opportunities and I think made some connections as well. How did you initially kind of come in contact with those folks?
After I graduated in May of 2023, I was scrambling to find a job, and I found the WAVIT and American Music and Sound job application when I was searching. And I noticed that WAVIT was at the very top of the application, like, oh, join the team. We're partnering up with WAVIT, an organization focused on bringing diversity to the AV IT industry. And I wasn't too quite sure what that was all about, but I really was inspired by the fact that this company is not only something in my interest, but they seem to care about, bringing people like me into an industry that typically is more men would want to get into it. So that kind of inspired me to get going there.
Yeah, you luckily found your way into two of my favorite organizations kind of partnering together, American Music and Sound, obviously representing some of the biggest brands on the music side of the world and pro audio side, and WAVIT. Know those gals well, doing some fantastic work just from a conversation standpoint, an education standpoint about grouping together as females in the industry and really making an impact even far beyond what they were able to do before. And I love to have conversations with folks, whether that's, Brandy or Gina over there. And I know Corey and Tammy are doing lots of great work with the WAVIT folks as well. And, it was cool. You and I had an opportunity to sit with a lot of those folks at NAMM, which is the trade show that we met at. I got to ask, how was it being at your first enterprise trade show? It's not always for the faint of heart. It's a little scary and intimidating, but how was it for you?
Well, another interesting fact about me is that I studied film in college, which I didn't mention because that's not really where my mind is geared toward going right now. So I would do a lot of production assistant work, and the trade show and working on a film set to me was a very similar vibe. Like everyone's rushing around, you're building stuff, you're really focused on your task. Like everyone's kind of well, I wouldn't say like yelling at each other, but it's really high energy, high focus, to complete a goal, to make something huge. It's like a huge production, basically, or at least the setup for the trade show. So yeah, to me, it was very similar to that, and it's like I had that background, so I wasn't too like overwhelmed. I mean, I will admit, at the end of the day, I was exhausted, but
That's a
yeah,
given.
it hurt so bad. But yeah, everyone had prepared me for it. They're like, "Oh, it's gonna be so busy. Bring good shoes, this and that. Stay hydrated." So I'm like, "Oh wow, these people, they go through a lot." So I got there. We set up the NAM happened, and it's pretty much what I expected. But at the same time, it was a lot of fun. It felt crazy to be in one central location that focused on one subject, because I'm not really one to go to like Comic-Con or anything like that. So just being around so much music equipment all at once was like, whoa. I felt like really fully introduced into the music industry, or at least the AV side of it.
Well, it was fantastic just to kind of get to see you out there, and you really look, honestly, you were holding your own. You were doing a great job at having conversations with people, basically pitching and selling and marketing all at the same time. It was impressive. And look, you mentioned that film set lifestyle, right? So many different folks find their way into the industry, whether it's through music, whether it's through film, whether it's through hobbyists or volunteering at church. And that experience that you kind of come into the industry with is incredibly valuable. And one of the things that you mentioned is having a little bit of a tinge towards the marketing side of things, and especially in the pro audio community. The pro audio community has done such a good job in the past of reaching all sorts of different folks and trying new things on the marketing side. What are some of the techniques really that you were able to kind of bring in from kind of going into the college world to the professional world? What were some of the techniques that kind of translated for you, or were there any?
So on the film side, I studied screenwriting because I'm super into creative writing. And I definitely see creative writing translating into the marketing side of things, because I feel like in marketing and public relations writing, you have to be pretty creative with how you say things. So a lot of it now is kind of practicing those skills and learning from like amazing professionals who have been doing it for years and getting their feedback. And it kind of is very eye opening, and it's like college all over again, in a sense, that they're teaching me things that I never have been through before and refining those skills. So the main thing is my writing skills, I would say, and my creative skills.
Well, you're absolutely right. Those things translate so well into our industry, especially that's dominated by a lot of technical specifications and a lot of very specific applications and use cases. Being able to bring in that world of creativity and even storytelling is so important, especially as we kind of step into these next generations of buyers coming in. But, you mentioned kind of learning from folks, right? And I'll even step outside of NAM. I know that you have a great relationship with some folks over on the WAVIT team, and have a mentor-mentee type relationship. How important for you has that been?
It's been great so far. Like I've met with Brandy a handful of times now, whether it be over text or over Zoom call, and she kind of guides me in a lot of professional ways that I might not have experienced in my life around me. Like she went over some LinkedIn tips and tricks, just to name one. She really guided me through what to expect at NAM, and then of course she met up with me at NAM, so that felt really nice to like meet her for the first time, and also have someone there who really is there to support me and like be there for me and even comfort me. So that was awesome. And yeah, just overall, just knowing that I have these really powerful women in my corner is like a really good experience and feels really good.
Well, look, you mentioned something earlier. You talked about kind of our industry being male dominated, and it is, right? I want to ask, just from your perspective, because we don't often get to talk to folks kind of who have found their way into the industry, especially females who are coming in for the first time, right? You have such a different and unique perspective. What are some of the challenges that you've seen so far, just from being a female in the industry? Have you seen a little bit more inclusivity? Have you seen kind of some pushback, or maybe have you seen any of that at all?
Well, I will say that a lot of the times when I'm in meetings for the job, not that it's a problem, but I do notice there's a lot of just men in the meeting, which is fine, because there's also a lot of other women on the team. Like one of the marketing managers that is the closest to my age in American music and sound, she's a woman who started off kind of like me, not knowing much about the industry, but she worked her way up. So that's an inspiring part of it right there. And also, I spoke yesterday to one of the sales manager of one of the companies under American Music and Sound, and she was kind of saying like, as long as you know your stuff and you show up and you don't let anyone treat you any different, then you'll be fine. Just kind of go in with confidence, and even as a woman, you'll be okay. And so far, I haven't really faced any sort of like any negativity being a woman in the industry. One thing I did notice though at NAM, like I felt a little underestimated. Maybe like they saw this girl coming up to them and they're like, oh, what does she know about this big mixing console? And at the same time, I didn't blame them because I really didn't know a lot about the mixing console. But I noticed, like, yeah, so it's like, okay, I didn't feel too bad there. But then I noticed when like one of the men would go up to them, they were more like inclined to just all of a sudden like ask questions and get into it. So that's probably one of the things I would say is being maybe judged by your cover. But so far I haven't really ran into anything crazy.
Well, yeah, quick spotlight on American Music and Sound. I know that even partnering with organizations like WAVIT, they've done some fantastic work just for advocacy, for bringing all sorts of different folks into the industry in different ways, whether that's sales roles, marketing roles, I think even some installed technology roles as well. So big shout out to the folks over there. I know that's been something that they've been working on forever, or for very recently. Want to ask too, what are some of the things maybe that you kind of want to see more of in the industry, right? We obviously talked about inclusivity, things like that, but, as somebody who for the first time is kind of finding their footing in the pro AV, pro audio world, what are some of the things, whether it's maybe marketing best practices or even just, sales tactics, what are some of the things that you see that you said, man, I don't think people realize that this is inconvenient, or maybe we should look at changing some of this? Or is there anything that jumps out to you?
It's only been a month since I started the job, and I'm barely getting the hang of all of the brands that I work with and just how things are working. So a lot of it is still kind of sitting back and observing for now. So I'm not sure that anything has really stuck out to me, but my answer might definitely change 5 months from now. So keep you updated on that.
Hey, I love to hear that you are willing to learn, though, right? I think a lot of times people come in just firing away saying, I hate this, don't do this, we need to change that. And I love your willingness to listen, which is one of the reasons that I think we connected out at the show, is because you were just absorbing all sorts of different information, best practices, and things like that. And, it was just transparently, it was super cool to meet you because, your experience is so valuable. And some of your insights even bringing to the industry. There are things that I'm already learning from you. So I can tell you that I appreciate that. But, Raegan, kind of want to land the plane with the last question here. I mean, obviously you're doing some fantastic work with American Music and Sound and, bringing in all sorts of different ideas and best practices. What are some of the things you might want to hope to accomplish in the industry? Is it you want to stay specifically kind of on the marketing side, or would you like to get into the sales or other side of the world, or do you have any idea yet?
I guess so far I'm really kind of loving marketing. I mean, I know I have a lot to learn. This is one of my most professional jobs. Even my college internship in the marketing department, I felt like my hand was being held the whole time, but now I'm like kind of thrown to the wolves. Like my boss will be like, okay, do this. And I'm like, okay, just have to figure out how to do this. And I'm very lucky that the team is super supportive. Everyone's nice. There's that whole family vibe. So if I go over to someone, ask them a question, they always feel free to kind of answer the questions very warmly, kindly. No one really brushes me off like, oh, do this, and that's it. So I feel very lucky in that sense. I just hope to stick with marketing. I really like the music industry. I'm still kind of testing the waters on the pro audio side of things. So, we'll see where that goes. But it's really interesting so far and how people kind of use pro audio in their lives and behind the scenes of like how we use mixing consoles in like churches or even concert venues, like the things you don't really think about. We kind of work on that, and music is so important in our lives. So, I see a big benefit to this industry and great people so far. So.
Well, Raegan, look, we appreciate your perspective, and I know that it might even change the next time that we have a conversation. And I'll say this, if you see Raegan at a show, give her a big, crisp high five, because the work that she's doing is fantastic. And look, this is someone that you want to meet in our industry. I tell you, she's one of the fastest rising stars. You said about a month and a half, I think, already, but I'm telling you, if you stick around for a long time, you'll be one of the faces that we continue to recognize and support. So next up, 40 under 40 for sure. Big shout out to the folks at Commercial Integrator over there. I'm sure we'll be seeing you on that list soon.
Cool. I hope so. Thank you, Ben.
Well, Raegan, thanks so much for coming on, and thank you, the audience, for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe. Check us out next time on Pro AV Today.